Friends, welcome family. What's going on, Ma? Well, hey, what's up, you guys? Jeez, 10 minutes behind. That's for a very good reason. Welcome, you guys. It's the watch party. I assume everyone already knows where you are, but in case you don't know where you are, it's the watch party. There's my name. I'm Jayar Jackson. There's a lot going on. I have literally just stopped looking at things that were already happening that are going to continue to happen as I ramble on about all of this stuff. What's going on, you guys? Have you heard about what's going on? Have you heard about this trickle of information that's coming out over Epstein? Literally, I got up this morning. Listen, I'm going to look for some things on Epstein today because, as I promised everyone, probably once a week minimum, I'd like to at least go ahead and refresh everyone's memory about what it is that's going on, what we've seen, and what continues to come out. Maybe the cover up that continues from this Trump administration. I'm 10 minutes behind. Hey, how about we go ahead and just get started? In case you guys haven't seen all this, let's go ahead and start right here. We might as well, right? I'm already behind, right? I need to catch up. This is what's going down.
John, these are emails that show Jeffrey Epstein mentioning Donald Trump by name multiple times in private correspondence that he had with people, including Ghislaine Maxwell, obviously his longtime associate and accomplice, and also the author Michael Wolff, in a time span of about the last 15 years or so in these emails. Now, these are coming out from the House Oversight Committee. They had issued a bipartisan subpoena to Jeffrey Epstein's estate, John, as you know, earlier this year. And so they've gotten their hands on a trove of documents. And these are emails that included Jeffrey Epstein on them. They were sent either to him or from him that mentioned Donald Trump before he was in office and also while he was in office during his first term. And I want to walk you through these emails of what exactly we are reading in Jeffrey Epstein's own words in these emails that have been released by the House Oversight Committee. And in one of them, Jeffrey Epstein says, and I should note, Trump did not send or receive any of these messages. He's not a party to these emails, John, but these are emails from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. This is one from April 2nd, 2011. And in this email, Jeffrey Epstein writes to Ghislaine Maxwell and says, quote, "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. There's a name that's redacted, which the House Oversight Committee has said is a victim of Jeffrey Epstein's. Obviously, we have not been able to independently confirm that because her name is redacted from this email. But they say redacted spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there." Ghislaine Maxwell responds to that email, John, and says, quote, "I have been thinking about that." Now, there's no context for that message in this release of what we're getting. Obviously, this was a time span, and this was about 3 years after Jeffrey Epstein had accepted what is now known as that sweetheart deal.
There I am. There's Caitlin Collins talking about these latest trove of emails. Not even latest. Now, some emails that were released from Jeffrey Epstein talking about his relationship with Donald Trump. Crazy. So now we've got a little trickle of information coming out. And it's not just a trickle as far as the information we're getting. What we saw there was information about Epstein talking to Ghislaine Maxwell, his accomplice in their child sex trafficking ring, about how Donald Trump spent hours at his house with this victim whose name was redacted. The shit is hitting the fan. There's more than just that one email. In fact, there's a few of these emails. Let Caitlin Collins continue to tell you guys what's in these emails that maybe right now Donald Trump is trying to sift through and cover up and say it's all a hoax. Here's more.
And there's also other emails that have been released by the committee this morning, including between Jeffrey Epstein and Michael Wolff. People will remember Michael Wolff, of course, the author who wrote a book on the inner workings of Trump's West Wing back in 2018 during his first term. He is someone who has talked at length about his own correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein, published audio recordings of those conversations between the two of them. And in another email, and this seems to be a reference to Donald Trump saying that he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his Mar-a-Lago club. And Jeffrey Epstein writes to Michael Wolff and says, quote, "Trump said he asked me to resign." And he adds, John, "Never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop." Now, again, we don't have the context of this email, but John, that comes as in recent months, we've heard President Trump himself and the White House say that Jeffrey Epstein was kicked out of Mar-a-Lago for being a creep. And Trump himself told reporters on Air Force One that he was trying to poach women, he and Ghislaine Maxwell, from the Mar-a-Lago spa. And that was why they had such a falling out and why he ultimately asked Jeffrey Epstein to leave the Mar-a-Lago club.
We're getting more answers on the whole dispute over how they broke up and how he was kicked out of Mar-a-Lago and apparently was never even a member in the first place. But why would you believe Jeffrey Epstein? He's a dead liar, child trafficking pedophile, right? Or maybe his best friend Donald Trump knew everything that was going on, which is also something that they mentioned in these emails, this trove of emails that, again, Caitlin Collins and CNN keep breaking down to point out and show why Donald Trump, for this many months now, has been talking about how this is a whole Democrat hoax. I bet that's what he's going to say today. But here's more, just to refute all that bullshit that he's going to eventually say.
Now, there's also a third email in here, John, and this is, again, in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and Michael Wolff. And Michael Wolff emails Jeffrey Epstein, and this is back in December 15th, 2015. So the height of the 2016 campaign, just to put that in perspective for you. And it was the day of a CNN Republican primary debate. And Michael Wolff says, quote, "I hear that CNN is planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in a scrum afterwards." And Epstein wrote, "If we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be?" Michael Wolff responded at length, John. I'll summarize it. But he said, in regards to Trump, "I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him generating a debt." Now, I'll note, John, we looked at the transcript of that CNN debate from December 2015. There's no mention of Jeffrey Epstein in there. And of course, as I mentioned, Donald Trump himself is not a party to these emails. But what this shows is Jeffrey Epstein mentioning Donald Trump by name multiple times at a moment here in Washington when their relationship has come under incredibly intense scrutiny, John.
We're getting more and more and more, even up to the presidential election the first time around. That was 2015. He and Michael Wolff, that is Jeffrey Epstein, were talking about ways that they could craft or play this whole thing when or if the Epstein situation gets asked to Donald Trump at the time. Apparently it didn't, so all of their thoughts about what they could do that Jeffrey Epstein could probably play in a certain way didn't really make much sense for that moment. But Michael Wolff, as I've showed you guys before, has been knee deep, neck deep in all of this stuff, has many conversations with Donald Trump, knows a lot of their relationships, has many conversations and wrote books about it, also with Jeffrey Epstein. So as the things that he's releasing has been saying over years now, his credibility continues to build on what it is that he was saying and things that he spoke to Jeffrey Epstein about. Go back and review that video as well, too. Maybe I'll do another one to talk about what his Michael Wolff has been revealing and the credibility behind those things as well now, too. All the way up to him talking about how Melania wanted to sue him for $1 billion or something like that. But the things keep on coming out. So those are the 3 emails. One last thing here from CNN and Caitlin Collins and John Berman there. They were talking about how bad this looks and potentially maybe even the response from these conservatives, which again, if you guys see this happening, if you see these things popping up, please send them my way because I'd love to go ahead and continue to jump on later to talk about it further. But anyways, here's more from CNN. The last bit from CNN talking about this huge breakthrough release of these emails.
This kind of language from Jeffrey Epstein himself, how often has Donald Trump, what has Donald Trump said about contact he may have had or time he may have allegedly spent with some of Epstein's alleged victims?
Obviously, he is referencing someone who Jeffrey Epstein says in this email from 2011 that spent time with Donald Trump at his house. And so we've asked the White House for comment on this morning. Obviously, these are emails that predate his time in office this term. They span about 15 years, this correspondence that's being released. And Trump has denied that he knew anything about what Jeffrey Epstein was doing and the sex trafficking of young women. And he said that he wasn't aware of that at the time. And obviously, Trump himself has not been accused of any wrongdoing. It's very important that we make that clear here, John. But of course, the question has been when it comes to regards to the Justice Department and what they've released about what they know. And Adelita Grijalva is being sworn in today. She's the new House Democrat from Arizona, and she's expected to be that 218th signature. And so the pressure has been building on not just Democrats, but Republicans here in Washington to release more information about what the Justice Department has. And so looking at that email, obviously, will likely only increase that pressure to do so.
That pressure, she's a building. I mean, it's been building for a while now. We saw it with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino from the very beginning of this whole cover-up, when their eyes nearly popped out of their heads when they were talking to Maria Bartiromo, and they were asked about the evidence that could be coming out and the things that they're now covering up and all those issues that they said they were going to get to the bottom of, even all the way up in Kash Patel's confirmation hearings, when he was talking about how he's going to go after the same thing. And maybe he wasn't privy to the information that Donald Trump wants him to cover up just yet. Representative Garcia showed up on MSNBC to talk about this because there has been a little bit of response from the White House. But Representative Garcia, Garcia here, he wants more answers, just kind of like everyone else. This is that pressure that we were just talking about building.
First reaction now from the White House to the release of these emails. This statement coming from the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. I'm going to read it to you in full. The Democrats selectively leaked emails to the liberal media to create a fake narrative to smear President Trump. The unnamed victim referenced in these emails is the late Virginia Giuffre, who repeatedly said President Trump was not involved in any wrongdoing whatsoever and couldn't have been friendlier to her in their limited interactions. The fact remains that President Trump kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club decades ago for being a creep to his female employees, including Giuffre. These stories are nothing more than bad faith efforts to distract from President Trump's historic accomplishments. And any American with common sense sees right through this hoax and clear distraction from the government opening back up again. What's your response to that?
My response is simple. Then release all the files. If the president has nothing to hide, if the press secretary right there in her comments and statement, if they have nothing to hide at the White House or the Department of Justice, then all we want is for them to release the full files. It's very clear. You can't spend your entire campaign saying you're going to do something and make a commitment to the American people and then backtrack. And so we're going to ensure, one, we always are going to protect the victims and survivors. And if they want to clear the president's name, and more importantly, also all of the other men and powerful men that may have been involved, then release the files today. That should be the response from the White House.
Check out that White House defense. I believe Caroline Leavitt's the one who released that bullshit statement. Their defense is to use Virginia Giuffre, the woman who, I guess, committed suicide earlier this year after she was one of the main vocal voices against this whole thing, who also brought down Prince Andrew over there in the UK. They're going to use her as a character witness, even though she's been one talking about how horrific this whole thing was with Donald Trump's best friend, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Somehow they think they can use Virginia's name and memory as some kind of way to make them look better. Even Virginia Giuffre said that Donald Trump never did anything wrong, because we're going to use her and her whole family. They were pushing back against our huge cover-up of this whole thing somehow as our pawn. Look how disgusting these pieces of shit are. It really it illustrates clearly how they don't give a damn. How these other victims that have come forward and talked about how they want all this information released and they've ignored and called a hoax after they've demanded that these things be released and the justice that they keep seeking becomes reality. They've been ignoring them and throwing up middle fingers at them. It's pretty obvious that they're willing to use people to no end, even the victims of this guy, to try and let this guy in the White House off the hook. That's your defense. That's amazing, bro. That's an insult. And on top of that, the back end of that response, they're just trying to stop all of this great momentum and huge historic successes of this Trump administration. That ain't working either, because everyone sees that this is a trash administration that's destroying as many lives as possible. You can't even hide behind that lie because everyone can see the reality. Here's more from this interview with Representative Garcia.
What questions specifically do you have for the president about these emails?
Well, my questions to the president would be, first, is what was your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein? mean, did you know what was happening? He was obviously running a huge sex trafficking ring. Why are there so many cases of these connections back to Mar-a-Lago? Jeffrey Epstein himself said that Donald Trump was one of his best friends. Why would he say that? And there's so many questions to ask. And the president could right now end all of the speculation and do the right thing for the survivors by releasing the files. The president himself has said that he has done nothing wrong, then release the files. Because we know for a fact that there are many, many powerful men, some of the most powerful, wealthiest men in this country that have done and committed harm to children and to girls and women in this country. And those women, now women, deserve justice. So it is time to end this White House cover-up and release the Epstein files today.
If these emails were selectively leaked the way that the White House expects anyone to believe, what else did they pick and choose from? How do you have that information? And if you have that information, why haven't you released it yet? As Representative Garcia keeps talking about, the lies have run out. The corners are surrounding them. You got to do and say something else now, bro. And I really hope the journalists that are in front of them will start asking them, why is it you've been lying about this then? Because now the story has to change because evidence continues to come out that shows they've been lying. I really hope they ask, why have you been lying about this for so long? Why is it that you're covering up for, I guess you can just say, these rich and powerful men that Donald Trump is covering up for, and not include Donald Trump in those rich and powerful men, even though Donald Trump said the guy who's running this whole thing for rich and powerful men was one of his best buddies. Hey, here's one of these lies. Maybe Todd Blanche should answer for this. Because as Aaron Parnas pointed out here, these emails, this is what I thought about when I read one of those emails. These emails contradict Ghislaine Maxwell's interview with Todd Blanche, who was Donald Trump's former personal attorney who lost those cases for him when he was getting, caught up in catching those cases for his criminal activity. He went on to say, she said she never saw Trump at Epstein's house in that interview that Maxwell had with Todd Blanche that was supposed to make her look better and Donald Trump take him off the hook. So if she said that he was on the up and up and never saw anyone, which is quoted here, this is from that interview with Maxwell. She says, I think they were friendly like people are in social settings. I don't think they were close friends, or I certainly never witnessed the president in any of, I don't recall ever seeing him in his house, for instance. That doesn't make a lot of sense when it comes to what it is that we saw in these emails. So this is the kind of breakdown that's going to happen now that we're seeing a little bit of information, and people are going to want more information to try and tie up all these loose ends that this president and this incompetent administration thinks we're going to keep buying. This is the bit from one of these emails that's in this direct contradiction from Jeffrey to Ghislaine in 2011. I want you to realize that dog hasn't barked is Trump. This victim spent hours at my house with him. He's never once been mentioned. So that was to Ghislaine. Did Ghislaine not read that email before she then went and talked to Todd Blanche about how Donald Trump was never at the house, even though she got an email from the guy whose house it is saying he's at the house for hours with the victim? Hey, quick reminder, because I have a little bit of Republican response to this. Remember yesterday? Oh, remember the day before that, and also last week, and then 2 weeks before that, I said that this administration is full of liars. I said this entire MAGA Republican Party is full of liars and pedophile coverers. They're lying again today. I said it yesterday that they're going to lie tomorrow. Hey, today is tomorrow, and they're lying again. I have a really, really good way to go forward. Don't listen to them tomorrow when they lie again, especially when it comes to their child sex trafficking ring that involves this president. Here's a guy that wants you to believe more lies that he's telling today. This guy isn't even in the administration. Representative Stutzman. Representative Stutzman is asked about this whole situation. Representative Stutzman probably should have stayed his ass at home because no one really knows who he is, but he's about to get a lot more famous for saying this stupid shit.
All of that, I want to get your response to the breaking news we've been following this hour that the House Oversight Committee has just released emails showing that Jeffrey Epstein mentioned Donald Trump by name multiple times in various private correspondence with Ghislaine Maxwell and the author Michael Wolff. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, good morning, Wolf. Great to be with you again. I think that we all know President Trump has been the most investigated person probably in the world over the last several years. And of course, the information that was released this morning by the Democrats, for one, I would say, it shows up on the day that we're going to open up the government again in the House. We're voting this afternoon. But also, the Oversight Committee, led by the Republican chairman, James Comer, is always going to be looking at the facts and whatever the facts lead. And again, as I say, President Trump has been the most investigated president that we probably will ever have. And so the fact that this information comes out today, I think is a bit ironic, but at the same time, any information that's released has to be taken seriously. And I know that the Oversight Committee will do that.
When
Marlon Stutzman is in a bit of a pickle. Maybe he shouldn't have gone on TV. He should have canceled this interview at the last moment if he had just heard about this before he went on. He has to toe this line of, number one, did you notice his number one objective here is to protect Donald Trump? It's not to find out more about information about these victims, to find out more information about the release of these emails that can get us more information. His number one objective was to say that Donald Trump is probably the most investigated, what did he say? The most investigated person probably in the history of the world. Maybe Donald Trump deserves to be the most investigated person in the history of the world because maybe Donald Trump is probably one of the biggest criminals in the history of the world who's gotten away with many crimes that he's never actually had to face consequences for. Maybe the fucking criminal in the White House needs to be investigated because he does so much criminal activity. It's weird how his first objective is to protect the criminal in the White House. And then when the question comes of whether or not we should do more about this, I mean, the information could be valid. I mean, we should look into it further. Are you willing to look in it further? Or are you going to be one of those people who continues to investigate the criminal in the White House too much, like you just said? What a loser this guy is. Yo, are you in the files now? Hey, anybody who decides to try and keep defending the people who are obviously involved in child sex trafficking, like Merlin Stutzman is doing now, maybe we should realize that he has either a taste for fucking pedophiles like Donald Trump, or maybe he wants to be involved with these situations with little girls like Donald Trump was. Here's more from this guy.
Alita Grijalva of Arizona, the Democrat, is sworn in later today, 2 months after her election, by the way. She's expected to be the 218th signature needed to force a vote to release all of the Epstein files. Do you think those files should be released?
Well, again, I think James Comer, the Oversight Committee chair, as well as the others who are responsible for these files, have done a very good job handling them methodically and making sure that the victims are protected, that Epstein, of course, was a monster that we know of, and the fact that these files are being released and information is coming out is good for all of us. I mean, we want transparency in our government. And I trust that James Comer, Congressman Jim Jordan, they are the ones that are truly handling this very well in the House of Representatives. Democrats are doing, their job, of course, as the opposition and making sure that information is out there. But again, I think that, it's interesting that they release those files today on the day that the government shutdown is going to end, and that it's a positive for Republicans that we're going to continue funding the government as we planned on, and that the government's going to be open. SNAP benefits are going to start being released back to the American people that we're truly counting on them over the past month. And because the Democrats weren't able to get those SNAP benefits, and of course a lot of other just problems that we didn't need to have and force on the American people, but that's what the Democrats chose.
You should have just gone home, Merlin. You shouldn't have stuck your face in front of the TV, because this is a distraction from the reopening of the government. I'm going to get to that story in a second, because you probably don't want to talk about the little provision that Senate Republicans slipped into this whole reopening of the government, because that's not good news for you either, despite the fact that, Democrats caved and gave you guys all the power. The number one objective, as usual. Maybe Wolf Blitzer asked them this afterwards. So if you're suggesting that it's a curious coincidence that the timing of these emails that are valid being released on the day that the government is supposed to get voted on reopening, if you're suggesting that it's a curious timing, you would be saying that they're doing this and it's fraudulent, that it's non-credible, that they're just trying to distract. Hey, This should be the headline. Merlin Stutzman thinks that the reopening of the government should be something, because it's happening today, to ignore child sex trafficking victims, to ignore the release of more information about all the people who participated in raping little children. Representative Stutzman thinks that the rape and coordinated trafficking of little girls is not that important. Representative Stutzman is a bad guy. He thinks it's not a big deal. And you know what's completely unsurprising? Remember those names, since we talked about Adelita Grijalva that's supposed to get sworn in now? One of those few Republicans that signed on was Nancy Mace for releasing these files. I've been thinking it and I didn't want to say it out loud. This whole shutdown process, they've been trying to get to some of the few Republicans that decided to do something right. And now this is what Nancy Mace, who was hell-bent on being a part of releasing these files and getting all the bad guys, this is what she had to say in response to this. All capitals. I'm so sick of the fake news focusing on Trump and not Epstein victims. Everyone knows Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago, and Epstein victims have exonerated the president. Stop gaslighting and start telling the victims' stories. Makes me sick. Those who abused underage girls need to see jail time. Tell that story. Countdown to the point when Nancy Mace is going to say, I'm so disgusted with this whole process and how you guys keep going after Donald Trump. I'm no longer going to sign on to this discharge petition to release the Epstein files. That's where Nancy Mace is heading, because they picked up Adelita Grijalva. So they need to lose one on the Republican end. Guess it hasn't worked for getting Massey on their side. Hasn't worked for getting Marjorie Taylor Greene on their side, but they're probably working on her too. The Republican Party is in totality about protecting pedophiles. Nancy Mace and all of her crying and how she wants to go after victims. And then when one of those potential perpetrators of this horrific crime is exposed, suddenly she doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Hold your kids tight if you get near a Republican. Let's move on. Oh my God, this is so frustrating. But you know what? I'm frustrated just because of these responses. It doesn't mean that any of this stuff is sticking. And matter of fact, none of it is. Everyone can see clear as day what's going on and what has been going on. Let's not forget what has been going on as we see what's now being exposed and to the degree to which they've made sure to cover this up very badly, but cover it up. Let's move on. Since Merlin over there wanted to talk about the reopening of the government. Hey, this is what's been going on with the reopening of the government. Can you believe this shit? Did you guys hear about this? This is the good news that Merlin didn't want folks to know about. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. I'm gonna get to that in a second. This is the House Rules Committee hearing. And they were meeting about this return to government. I want to start with some of the barbs that were thrown. Let me start here. I'm going to get to the bad news for Republicans in a second, but here's some of the barbs that were thrown as Republicans and Democrats in the House are reconvening.
Thank you, Ms. Bonamici. Ms. Ansari, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome back from your 8 weeks of taxpayer-funded vacation. It's good to see you, and I hope
I'm going to
that
interrupt you.
Republicans
I'm going to
enjoy-
interrupt you, please.
Please.
I am sick and tired of hearing you all say we had an 8-week vacation.
That's exactly what happened.
I worked every day. I don't know about you, but I don't want to
worked
hear
every single
another
day as well.
soul
We all worked
say
every
that.
single day, and that's exactly what happened with Speaker Mike
Recognized,
Johnson.
you're recognized.
I hope that you all enjoyed yourselves while American families looked at their letters from their health insurance companies, terrified that their insurance premiums were going to double or triple while the House was out of session for 53 days. That is unacceptable, Madam Chair.
Representative Yasmin Ansari laid into Virginia Fox's sorry ass because they don't like to hear about it. I'm sick and tired of hearing about how we're the bad guys. Maybe it's similar to Donald Trump and all of his criminal activity, how he's sick and tired of being prosecuted. Maybe if it didn't do criminal shit, and maybe if you weren't this lazy ass party that listens to Mike Johnson tell you to go home and do nothing, maybe you won't have to be greeted with this kind of greeting from the Democrats that were waiting on your ass.
Well, hello, Madam Chair. Welcome back. Long time no see. I hardly recognize you guys. Where the hell have you been? It's good to see you back on back in the Capitol building. We've been looking everywhere for you guys. I mean, seriously, we were worried. We actually started handing out missing person posters. Nobody has seen you for 8 weeks. But hey, I'm glad that you're okay. I'm glad that you survived your nice 2-month paid vacation while Democrats stayed in Washington to try to end this shutdown.
Republicans were losing this battle over the healthcare subsidies so badly that even after they were handed this huge win by Senate Democrats, those 8, they're still mad. They're still mad because the narrative is going to stay the same. People knew the situation. They still know the situation. Matter of fact, all those Democrats did was get themselves involved with the worst people in the country. The worst people in the country that did this. This is what they're coming back to proposing as they get everything they want. There's another indication as to why Democrats should have never given them anything that they demanded, because this is what they add on to it. Did you hear about this?
Lawmakers are not just voting to reopen the government, but they are also going to expand senators' ability to sue the United States government as well. That's because tucked into one of the spending measures that is expected to pass here tomorrow is a new provision that requires the Justice Department to tell Congress if it's investigating a lawmaker and if their personal information has been subpoenaed. Failure to do so could allow lawmakers to sue the government for up to $500,000. Notably, the provision is retroactive to 2022, meaning that it could immediately pave the way for those 8 Republican senators to file their own lawsuits after Senate Republicans said last month that the special counsel, Jack Smith, had obtained their phone records via subpoena in 2023 as he was investigating what happened with the January 6th attack.
Did you get what's happening? So these Senate Republicans slipped in a provision in the new agreement to reopen the government that would allow them to sue the federal government for being investigated over things like their potential involvement in January 6th, a $500,000 per instance. So this was slipped into the bill to reopen the government. It has nothing to do with reopening the government. What it has to do is stealing more money from American citizens in the name and in the likeness of their dear leader, Donald Trump. It's like, this is a way for us to make money and also put more focus on the fact that we were potentially involved with the January 6th insurrection. Here's Representative Neguse, a Democrat here in the House, talking about it with Tom Cole, Republican.
And this is the provision that essentially allows specifically 8 Republican United States senators to reap upwards of a $500,000 payday with respect to the phone record notice provision that they've added into the bill. You support that provision?
I didn't have anything to do with it, didn't have any knowledge of it.
Not asking if you have knowledge of it. Do you support it?
Yeah. Do I support the bill? Yes. Do I support every single provision in the bill? No.
You don't find this provision repugnant? I think most American people are going to find this pretty repugnant.
I was surprised to see it in the bill. I was unaware of it. It was not.
Why not work with us to remove it?
Right. Let's see what you do.
Well, we've got an amendment.
I will tell you this. I am very concerned, and actually Democratic senators said this. I think particularly Senator Coons. I am very concerned that anybody, whether they're in the House or the Senate, is singled out and not notified that their records are being subpoenaed. That concerns me a great deal.
And does that justify?
Now, did I know about this provision in the bill? No. Do I think it needs to be in a funding bill? Not particularly. But do I think getting the governments open is important? Yes, I do. But I was unaware of the provision, so.
You know, Republican Tom Cole couldn't give much less of a shit about these things in it. I mean, maybe it shouldn't be there, but I don't really care that much. Not necessarily should be there. But what he's definitely concerned about is the fact that these folks who were potentially involved with the planning and the execution on January 6th got investigated, legally investigated for their potential involvement. He's more upset about that than he is about the fact that they're trying to steal some more money from taxpayers because of their potential involvement. They're so casual in their criminality and in their theft. They want you to think that it's normal, and it's just not. I mean, it's normal for these white supremacists, but I don't know if it's normal for everyone else. Here's more from Representative Magoo's talking about what is that they could do.
Well, there's an amendment that will be introduced
Well,
that
I'm
I'm not
a
asking a
member of
question,
this
Mr. Chairman.
committee.
Not asking you a question. Let me finish my
Okay,
statement,
I'm sorry.
and then you'll have an
I
opportunity.
apologize.
There will be an amendment proposed to remove what I think is a deeply insidious provision. I think it is outrageous for these Republican senators to effectively guarantee themselves $1 million paydays. Retroactive provision in this bill that very clearly applies to them. The removal of all relevant immunity defenses on the part of the United States government. This is insanity to allow this provision to go forward. And I would hope that my Republican colleagues would join us in supporting the removal of this provision.
They're looking to potentially remove this provision. It was slipped in. It's already ready to be set and ready to go. But as people finally discovered it, this is where this is all breaking down. I missed that part because Nagus repeated it again. It's also retroactive. It's not like going forward. They can go back and be like, this just after January 6th, you guys investigated us. I get to now sue retroactively from up to a few $1 million, depending on every instance of being investigated for the things that they potentially did. I can now take some money retroactively. I want to remind you guys the situation that this economy is in and the situation that many Americans are in as they look to take more and more money from us. Here's Chip Roy. He's a Republican. Here he is talking about how disgusted he is that this is happening. Chip Roy, don't forget the name.
But the retroactive, potential to have dollars going to United States senators when we've got American citizens, whether it was J6ers, whether it was people from the FACE Act, whether it was others that have also had the full force of the federal government through the Department of Justice targeting and coming down on them. And they're going to see, oh, but you can slide in a provision in here for United States senators. Like, it is beside my comprehension that this got put in the bill. And it's why people have such a low opinion of this town. I am torn also, the gentleman from Georgia, because we need to fund the government and we need to get this passed. And I'm trying to figure out what we can do to force the Senate's hand to say you're going to repeal this provision and fix it without amending it here to then delay the funding of government, which we want to proceed to go move forward with. But that provision needs to get fixed. And we need to find a way as a body to get it fixed as soon as possible.
Chip Roy is incensed. Chip Roy is disgusted. Chip Roy says it's beyond my comprehension that these Republicans would do such a thing. Chip Roy, I'm going to say his name again. Chip Roy in this House Rules Committee is upset about what Republicans in the Senate did to try and slip in this provision to make some money. Chip Roy did that. And he said, we got to find a way. We got to find a way to do something about this. Force their hand and make sure that this is not in this provision. This provision is not in this new reopening bill. Chip Roy. So like Representative Goose said, this is just the House Rules Committee. It's not the whole House. Obviously, it's a smaller room, and there's Democrats and there's Republicans in it. They had a vote on whether or not they should strip this provision, the same provision that Chip Roy and all them said is disgusting, and I can't believe our fellow Republicans would do such a thing. I want you guys to watch how this vote went down to do exactly what it is Chip Roy and them just said that they want to do, which is stop this this crazed provision.
The question is on the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. Ms. Leisure Fernandez requests a recorded vote. The clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Fishbach. Mrs. Fishbach, no. Mr. Norman. Mr. Roy. Mr. Roy, no. Mrs. Houchin. Mrs. Houchin, no. Mr. Langworthy. Mr. Langworthy, no. Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott, no. Mr. Griffith. Mr. Griffith, no. Mr. Jack. Mr. Jack, no. Mr. McGovern. Mr. McGovern, aye. Ms. Scanlon. Ms. Scanlon, aye. Mr. Neguse. Mr. Neguse, aye. Ms. Leisure Fernandez. Ms. Leisure Fernandez, aye. Madam Chair.
No.
Madam Chair, no.
The clerk will report the total.
4 yeas, 8 nays.
The noes have it. The amendment is not agreed to.
They voted on an amendment to remove the very thing that Republicans, specifically Chip Roy, just said he's disgusted by. The thing that Chip Roy just said is the reasons why people hate this body and don't understand how Washington operates and how people hate us. Yet Chip Roy is on this House Rules Committee, voted against taking out the provision that does the very thing he's disgusted by. So did Virginia Fox, who was triggered by Representative Ansari telling her, it's good to see you here, avoiding all kind of accountability and responsibility to your job. But they're disgusted by this whole thing, but they voted to keep it in. Does that make any sense? Or does that sound like this entire party is all about allowing these 8 Republican senators to steal more money from you? Does it sound like they're on your side, or does it sound like they just talk about it and do nothing else about it? Here's Democratic Representative Teresa Leger Fernandez.
Every single Republican on the Rules Committee voted against my amendment, which would restrict the Payola provision out of this bill. They voted to keep in the bill a provision that will send millions of dollars to senators' individual bank accounts. That is corruption. It is payola. They should have had the courage to stand against corruption, and they didn't. They voted down my amendment. Now we won't even get a vote on the House floor. It shows you where Republicans stand, and it's not with the American people.
She's right. All you have to do is highlight the horrific things that this party does, because they continue to do them, because they're looking to please their king. He's the only person that matters. And I was going to read this myself, but since she's got the names right in front of them, let me let Representative Fernandez continue to cook, because I still haven't said the names of these 8 Republican senators that are looking to enrich themselves off of potential criminal activity and being investigated for that criminal activity, because she has a little bit more information about how that all went down as well.
What did these senators get in return? Like, what were they giving up? And we keep saying 8 senators. I'm going to say their names. We have 8 senators. Senators Graham, Johnson, Senator Blackburn, Senator Loomis, Senator Haggerty, Senator Hawley, Senator Sullivan, and Senator Tuberville. Let's say their names. Let's make sure the American people know who will get millions of dollars, because each violation will give you $500,000. And so they can claim violation. And when we say violation, that sounds like something went wrong. Let's make sure the American people know. These were subpoenas or inquiries by the FBI that were authorized by the courts, that were authorized by grand juries when they were looking into what happened around the January 6th insurrection. And the American people saw that this place was overrun by violent attackers. We were here. We were here. There were 140 law enforcement officers who went to the hospital. 140 police officers went to the hospital, and now we're going to pay senators, these 8 senators that I have called out, we're going to pay them millions of dollars instead of providing any money to the veterans, instead of providing any money to the children, to the families. It is outrageous, and it is horrible.
Did you notice the information she also tossed in there? these folks that have been investigated, these 8 Republican senators that want to enrich themselves off of it, the way that they were investigated was after, and this is normal, but it sucks that you have to say it. These subpoenas were authorized by courts and also authorized by grand juries to investigate these specific folks. So they want to go around what courts already decided through a normal process of a judicial process of investigating people for potential crimes, and they want to then sue the government for those investigations that were done legally for their potential illegal operations. Sounds like the criminals are running this place and the criminals are making their illegal activity suddenly worthwhile to them getting paid for conducting, and then saying that investigating their criminal activity is illegal. It's crazy how quickly a 34-time felon in the White House, the trickle-down effect that Republicans always talk about is actually the trickle-down effect of open criminal activity. I mean, they were always criminals. It's just they weren't as open about it. Donald Trump gives them that, that wide open ability and that credibility in MAGA world to be the biggest, most unprincipled. I'm really trying to stop cussing so much. The most unprincipled criminals that you could imagine. I'm gonna give you guys one more guy. Here's a Republican. His name is Austin Scott, and he was also upset about this going in. This is the reasons why he also wanted it to stay in, despite his disgust. See if it has anything to do with your life.
There, but there's also language in there where it indicates that each account is a separate payment. This language did not go through any committee markup. This language was not shared with the House of Representatives prior to it being put in the bill. And I personally agree that it should be removed. The problem is if we remove it, the Senate, it has to go back to the Senate. And then you're right back to where you were 40 days ago, where all of a sudden you're trying to get a piece of legislation out of the Senate. And so, I mean, I've struggled. I want you to know that, Mr. Cole. I want the American citizen. I've struggled with what the right course of action here is, because what they did is wrong. This should not be in this piece of legislation. That would never pass if that was a standalone piece of legislation. And it is clearly authorizing an Appropriations Act.
Austin Scott is upset. It wouldn't normally pass, but he's torn because if he takes it out, it's got to go back to the Senate and they have to do the right thing. And for some reason, he's convinced that they just won't. And we got another 40 days of a shutdown. Austin Scott has no courage. Austin Scott is okay with people taking more of your money. Austin Scott is a coward, but he wants you to think that he really believes that he's on the right side of this. But it would have to go back to those 8 corrupt senators that slipped this in so that they can get paid. This whole party has different excuses for all doing the same thing. Some are very open about their criminality, and others, like Austin Scott and Chip Roy, say the right thing and then do the wrong thing 100% of the time. Isn't that weird how that works? And at the end of it all, they all get away with it. That's the bottom line. That's the whole purpose for their existence. This is why they do what they do. This is why it was done the way that it was done. So there could be this fear of, man, we just went through this long shutdown. What are we going to do now? We're going to do what they were always going to do. Take more of your money. These are thieves. It's organized criminal syndicate called the Republican MAGA Party. It's the top of the hour. I'm going to do one more story really fast. I have to go as well, but I have to squeeze this in. I have to talk about Greg Bovino, that the head of Border Patrol at one point in California. Now he's been dispatched also to Chicago and other areas to carry out his madman activities. I'm sorry, his Nazi activities in the name of Donald Trump. But I want to start with what one of his agents was doing in the streets of Los Angeles before he got a chance to then go run and terrorize folks in Chicago. Check out this loser. What a weak, sorry son bitch that is. He can't run down the street without, he didn't turn an ankle. Hopefully he like snapped an Achilles, but it maybe looked like a cramp in his calf. Maybe he tore his calf muscle. I hope his whole leg falls off. But the dude couldn't run down the street and chase a man that they had just handcuffed. So he took a spill to the ground with that little, that little yelp at the beginning. Oh shit, fucked myself up. Hey, it was so good. I think we should watch another angle of it.
Oh, oh. Oh shit! Oh shit! Keep going! Keep going! Keep going! Keep going! Keep going! Run! Run!
Sorry, some bitch. Hey, somebody get a stretcher for this piece of shit. Get him off this streets and toss his ass in the woods. He can't run. He can't keep up. But this is the elite force. This is the white supremacist organization that Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth keep talking about. They want to fill our streets with and invade our cities with. This is very clear proof that if you stand up to them and kick a couple people's asses, they might go limping off like that sorry some bitch is doing there too. They're led by, as I mentioned, Greg Bovino, who's also got little man's complex and is also a coward too. This is what happened to Greg Bovino in his illegal activities. Finally, a judge caught up to his ass.
A federal judge just issuing a preliminary injunction to keep in place restrictions which limit the use of force by federal agents in what, of course, is known as Operation Midway Blitz. During that ruling, the judge called evidence presented by the Trump administration not credible, and also said that Trump's top enforcer in this operation admitted to lying about whether a rock hit him before he used tear gas on protesters last month.
She got to this ruling after multiple days of hearings and multiple testimonies from the protesters, from federal agents, from Gregory Bovino's own deposition. And her words were striking, and she didn't mince them. And she simply said she does not think that the Trump administration's version of events is credible after reviewing all of the evidence that was presented to her. And one of those is the confrontation that you just mentioned, where Gregory Bovino was seen throwing tear gas. The Department of Homeland Security had said that it was warranted because the federal agents were under threat, and the department said that he was hit in the head with a rock. Well, according to his deposition and the evidence and the videos that Ellis has seen, she says, quote, video evidence ultimately disproved this, and that he was hit in the head after deploying the tear gas. She also said, quote, I find the defendant's evidence, the defendant being the federal government, simply not credible. She said that after hours and hours of body cam video and video from helicopters was the best that they could provide.
It's a theme. It's who they are. If you notice, that judge there had to point out how uncredible they are, how they have zero accountability for the things that they do. As a matter of fact, Greg Bovino lies just like the rest of this MAGA party. That's why he's in charge of these folks. That's why he's got the position that he is. That's why he goes around in his Nazi gear to impress Donald Trump, because he's a liar too. So just like before, as he mentioned before, he likes to intimidate people, then lie about the things that happened to him so he can deploy some tear gas. And finally, that judge caught up with him and showed him just how they're not going to accept this anymore. Only problem is these criminals don't listen to judges. But this is the video that showed just how much he was lying, or else he probably would have gotten away with it, because they lie indiscriminately. Here's the video of him that he said he got hit in the head with a rock, and that's why he did what he did.
Where is my
if not for the video, as I think the judge pointed out, where she got to see that the reality was the exact opposite of what Greg Bovino said happened, maybe he would have gotten away with this excessive force that he continues to tell his agents to use on the American people, that they keep calling the worst of the worst. This guy lies constantly. Here he is talking to his ICE agents that, snap ankles and pull Achilles all the time. Here he is talking to them about what they should do in Los Angeles. Look at the language and think about whether or not this guy is involved in excessive force against American citizens.
Arrest as many people that touch you as you want to. Those are the general orders all the way to the top. Everybody fucking gets it if they touch you. You hear what I'm saying? Less legals. We're going to look at shipping tractor trailer loads of that shit in here. So you catch what it's all about us now. It ain't about them. Professional, legal, ethical, moral. You know what we're talking about. Legal, ethical, moral. You're on camera. But other than that, it's what we do. What city is it, Tim? Fucking ours is Fire fucking City.
Los Angeles apparently is his fucking city. That is until somebody fucks him up. But he's going to tell his agents, if you get touched, you've got clear reign to arrest and attack anybody that you want. That excessive force thing that he's not supposed to do, that he also pulled off before he got busted for doing it. It is one of the benefits of us recording all of this activity that they keep doing, because they do all kinds of illegal activity. Matter of fact, he was also forced to start wearing his body cam. The guy who leads these guys didn't know how to use his body cam, wouldn't wear it or record any of the things that he was doing either. That is, while he's telling his folks, don't forget, you're being recorded. So when you fuck people up, make sure you act like they were attacking you first, the way that I do, the same way that the president does, the same way that this entire MAGA party does. They're the victims as they attack people. He was asked about that little conversation, that pep rally that he had with his out of shape ICE agents, and he lied his ass all the way through it.
Sir, is that you in the video, and did you say these things to the agents under your command on June 7 in Los Angeles?
That appears to be me, and it appears to be what I said there on sometime. I don't know what the date of that was.
Do you recall some of those things?
I don't recall everything. I don't recall everything. No.
But you have no doubt that you said that.
I believe that I said what was on the video there.
All right. So the instruction that you gave to your officers was that they had full reign to arrest anyone who so much as touched them. That, in essence, was what you said to the officers, right?
No.
Should we interpret you as saying something different?
I don't know how you want to interpret me, but that's not what I said.
Maybe you should have consulted with your attorney again before you contradicted yourself in like 10 seconds in that questioning. It appears to be me, as he checked with his look. Suddenly he's not a badass. Suddenly he needs some nerd in glasses to tell him what he should say when he's finally getting busted for the things that he's done. It appears to be me on camera saying those things that I shouldn't have said, that violate exactly what it is I'm supposed to be doing. But at the same time, 5 seconds later, now you can interpret what I said any way you want, except I said I didn't say it, even though you just heard me say it and saw my face moving as I said it. When are they going to put this guy in jail? That's perjury, right? I assume he's under oath in that questioning in his legal setting. But, just let his ass walk and go back to doing all those things that he keeps doing. They're liars from top to bottom. Here's the last bit of proof on this high level of lying. It starts from the bottom, from the street terrorists and those thugs that are running around and terrorizing American citizens, all the way to the top, to the Department of Homeland Security. And they're an official. They said in a statement that DHS plans to appeal this ruling, calling it an extreme act by an activist judge that risks the lives and livelihoods of law enforcement officers. They're going to appeal it. and for some reason not allowing ICE agents to attack people indiscriminately or allow them to be led by this guy who says, if anybody so much as touches you, you got free reign to attack. And in violation of those orders and tossing tear gas canisters from standing there thinking you're a badass. That's what the Department of Homeland Security thinks is the protection of his life and his livelihood. That's them admitting that his life and his livelihood is based in terrorizing American citizens, because we saw on that same tape that what he does is he terrorizes American citizens. He talked about his objectives and his tactics that he wants he and his officers to go and take part when they go and confront people. If you're afraid, remember the video? If you're afraid, if you got white knuckles, if we run up on you and point a gun in your face and you get a little bit startled, that means that's a reason why we can come after you. If you have an accent, we can come after you. If your skin is too brown, we can come after you. If you stand in certain parts of the city, we can come after you. If you're an American citizen and you're near someone that we're targeting for those same bullshit reasons, we can target you too. But the Department of Homeland Security says all these rulings against them doing all this illegal activity is going to risk their lives and livelihoods. Looks like their lives and livelihoods are Nazi tactics. That's who Greg Bovino is. It's all coming to a head. We'll see who's all in those Epstein files at some point, or maybe we won't, but we already know. So it's time to stop being afraid of these thugs. It's time to stop being afraid of these terrorists. I remember there was this mantra from the former Republican Party that would always talk about how we don't negotiate with terrorists. What we do is we fuck up terrorists. We've got a lot of terrorists in our streets right now. And I got to go. Sorry about the 10 minutes past. There was so much happening. And there's probably so much that's happened since then. So I'm going to have hair on fire the rest of the day until I get back to you guys tomorrow on a Thursday to talk more about this. It may be a whole damn hour on the fallout from these Epstein email releases and the stupid things that this White House will probably say in response, starting with Caroline Leavitt's ass. Oh, I'm going to have to check Truth Social just for a second to see the stupid things that Trump might have said even. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. It's so much happening, but I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Maybe I'll have another one of these. Yes, I cheated this week, and we'll have a lot more happening. Say hi to John of me on the damage report. I'm sure he's talking about this whole thing already right now. So we'll see you guys on a Thursday. Appreciate you. Love you. Come back. Check out these stories. They'll be up on the page later as usual. Don't forget to like the stream. Also, don't forget to subscribe and share it. It's going to be lovely. Trust. We got a lot happening. See you guys tomorrow. It was